This one is heresy. But if we go here, this is perfect. People have this standard. You gotta do always full range of motion. If it's the pull up, you know, you gotta start from basically from your shoulders, from your ears, pull all the way to your like upper chest something. If you're doing dips, you gotta go like this way there. If you're doing squats, it has to be always ass to grass. I also did this in the beginning because I thought that that's what makes exercises good quality. That is what really makes them also work. The range of motion, I've talked already for many years about it, and I've said that it's a very external quality to actually judge and base your training on. It's the same as if I'm judging my training based on how much weight I'm actually lifting. That's an external quality. Or if I'm doing my training based on how many repetitions I can do or how many sets I can do. Those are all external qualities. And range of motion is also to pretty much to very large extent, it's an external quality. It doesn't really show what is going on inside in your body, and it doesn't necessarily mean that for you it's best to use the full range of motion in all exercises, or that it would be the best option to target certain areas in your body. This came to, or I started to think about this a bit more because I saw a video on Instagram where there's a pretty well-known coach there called, his name is Joel Seidman, and he is often doing squatting, where he doesn't even go to parallel, he stays oftentimes a little bit above the parallel, to about here. He calls it like this, the 90 degree squat. So essentially you have this 90-degree angle here, 90-degree angle in the hip, and that makes it the 90-degree angle, or 90-degree squat as I think he calls it. But he's doing this type of squat variation like most of the time if you watch his videos, like all the time. But there was one particular video that he made where he explained why he's doing it, which it raised so much, let's say, fire into Instagram. Many people I saw, the reason why I even saw this squat was because people reposted it and they were quite angry about it, because this type of squatting is generally, it's like I said, it's like a heresy for people, because everyone thinks that the ass to grass is that's the best squat you can ever do, and that's the only squat you can ever do. So this guy, who is pretty well known, break this image that people had by presenting a squat that only went to not even parallel depth. Okay, the truth is that part of this criticism was well earned. There was because essentially this Joel was presenting this squat variation as now the best there is to it, like this the best squat variation, the most therapeutic, you know, you can be the most nowhere energy leakage and so on. Like this is one that you should not be doing. Now, of course, that's not the case. There's multiple squatting variations. Each of these can be for different purposes, and each of these squat variations can be very stable, very good, very conscious squatting form. So the point here is that with this criticism that it received, although some of it was well earned, people missed a very good point that this guy was making. He had a really good point. And that was that when he was explaining this squatting, and he explained that this is a maximal depth. And if I'm squatting without weight, so the parameters, this is the maximum depth when we consider parameters, is that I want to have a hip-width squat stance, toes pointing forward. I'm stacked, basically, my knees, everything goes forward, and I just sit here downwards like this way. And I keep my lower back neutral or straight. So for me, and he said, for example, okay, he's done this with like many athletes, dozens of athletes, hundreds of athletes, and everyone stops there if given those parameters. For me, it's the same. If I use weight, I can go a little bit lower because the weight, for example, here, it's like a counterweight. So I can go a little bit lower even if I keep everything, you know, pretty much like parallel. But most of the time, these people, they go to about this kind of position. And that looks, you know, compared to this, it doesn't look very like full depth. But if you follow the parameters, keeping everything forward, keeping your back straight, that's the depth where you're going to end up. So that is also, that's maximal depth, the same as is maximal depth going here as the grass, but now I'm keeping my legs wider, keeping my toes pointed a little bit outwards, so I can go lower, and even lower possibly if I start to round my back. thing is that this variation that he showed is really good squat. It's amazing squat, and it should be trained, because when you're only going like I was in the past to ass the grass, I let that completely control the form that I was taking. So I was always pointing my toes out, always knees out. So what's going to happen when I overutilize that kind of pattern with my legs? It's going to cause a lot of imbalances. Just like in your thigh, there's like 4 different quadriceps muscles there. You have multiple different fiber sectors in your glutes, even in the hamstring region. And the hamstrings are very strongly, the activation, the engagement changes whether how narrow I keep my legs or whether how wide I keep them. So if I'm only training squat based on the idea that it has to be maximal depth, I'm going to always choose one pattern of squatting, which causes a host of imbalances, and it caused a host of imbalances in my body. And I didn't train the other variations, for example, this way, everything forward, because I thought that it's wrong. People are going to judge me because I don't go all the way to the ground. So the great point in his squatting was that he understood that there's like, you cannot go lower in that, but it's still a great squatting variation. So you don't need to think that this is completely useless, even though you couldn't go so low as in the other variations. He was making, I think, a mistake in that he really said that this is now the best, because it's the same thing that the other guys are doing. The other guys are saying, well, this is the best. Now he's saying this is the best, because neither of those are the best. There's so many different variations. You can be legs together completely. You can be super wide. You can be horse dance, different widths. You have all these unilateral patterns also of squatting that you can be utilizing. You have toe squats, right? Plie squats. All of those train your body differently. So the point is, or the bigger principle here is that you don't judge exercises only based on the externalities, like the range of motion, like the amount of repetition, like, for example, some standard cues like shoulders back, or doing elbow with either flared or tucked elbows. That is not a very viable way to judge someone's training. Now we all seen, like in the gym or in some videos, we've seen people who clearly they're using partial range and they clearly don't know what they're doing. Like you can usually see, and from a person when he's doing an exercise, if there's some intention behind it, if there's like some real purpose behind what someone is actually training. Like I can, at least for me, because I've been a coach for many years, so I can actually look at people and I can see, yeah, regardless of the exercise form looks externally, I can see if he's really actually focused on what is going on inside his body. Is he focusing on his muscles? Is he focusing on stability? Is he focusing on control? Just like leave these external qualities a little bit less. Because the truth is that the higher level training, it always comes from the inside out. So when you start to actually learn different internal principles of training that we have been trying to study for many, many years, what happens when you learn this is that the internal actually connects now with the external form that you are choosing. It doesn't matter which range of motion you use, it doesn't matter which kind of articulation or body mechanic you use, you can always reference that into some purpose and some intention inside of your body. All of the good form is really depends on what do you want to train with it. This is why we made the precision training methodology of Athlete Twin XX. Because in Athlete Twin X we teach an entire methodology that is based on this sort of intent and awareness and mind-muscle connection. So understanding these internalities that go behind the external form actually. This is the big thing. Like all the changes in your physique, all the results that you can get are always shaped more by these unseen intentions, these invisible intentions, than they are shaped by the external form. So what is your approach? Where does that form come from? What is the muscular connection that cannot be seen inside your body? That will shape the structure of your body rather than what it actually shows to the outside necessarily. Because I can be again using the external range, the big range of motion, but I don't necessarily have almost any muscular engagement in that form. It's not a guarantee of the quality. So we focus from the quantity, from the externalities, from the amounts, from the degrees, we focus on what is going on inside the body, and from there we can go, or we can convey the correct external form as well. So training can actually be a lot more profound, a lot deeper. That is what is often portrayed in sort of mainstream ways of training, and this is really what we're trying to share, what we're trying to convey and teach, on this channel, on our programs, everywhere. And if you'd like to know more about this methodology in more detail and all these practical tools that you can actually start to apply this internal stuff and really like change and transform your body with it, then you can check our website. We have links in the description. You can click those and check out all this. We have a lot of free material as well, tons of articles and tons of videos, and also our training programs from where you can learn a lot more about this kind of approach to training. But that's it, guys. I hope you keep training and stay strong.